Hello there. What is going on, everybody? Could a single tagline from recent promotional Star Wars Legion stuff from Atomic Mass Games possibly be hinting at something more? That's the subject of today's video. AMG has been putting out lots of promotional material for the new starters with the Empire and Rebellion starters that are starting to show up in stores now with the Clone Wars starters that are coming soon. But we're now hitting this wave of all this new content that's now finally starting to show up on store shelves. It's a very exciting time. AMG is putting out lots of social media, and recently they put out a video, and I want to talk about one of the frames in this video. And yes, I am going to talk for 10 minutes about what this might mean. That's what I do because I love to kind of take the hype and kind of peel back layers of the onion. It's a fun thing to do. It's fun to talk about. It doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot, but it might. It might. So let's dig into this. Is this line here called Battle Through the Eras? Now, considering that there's only Clone Wars and Galactic Civil War, this line had me thinking a little bit about what the eras could mean, because they talk about eras in Shatterpoint. They have also hinted at the game's current factions in a recent article talking about the rules and talking about how, an introduction to Star Wars Legion. There's been a lot of little, very subtle things that have been future-proofing the game to have more factions. I don't think it's responsible to say that this is confirmation that that First Order is coming or Old Republic is coming anytime soon. But I also don't think it's completely out of bounds to say that these things, the door is definitely open for these things, and that's really what we're talking about today. What could it mean? And even if it doesn't mean anything, we're still getting a lot of hype. So if you guys are new here to the channel, I do talk a lot about Star Wars Legion. We just started a new round of the $25 Amazon gift card giveaway. It's all you have to do to enter to win is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my other videos. I'd love to hear some new factions that you would love to see in Star Wars Legion, and what are some new eras that you would love the game to be able to open up into. Now, eras can mean different things. In this video, clearly they're talking about Clone Wars and the Galactic Civil War, because that's where the game takes place. But there's some things that sort of kind of push the bounds on that, right? Darth Maul in the CIS, for example, was kind of before the Galactic Civil War, or rather before the Clone Wars, wasn't he? But he's close enough that we kind of loop him in. Moff Gideon is also in the game, and he's sort of after the Galactic Civil War. He's the Imperial Remnant. He's during the time of the New Republic, as is Din Djarin, right? But we group those in with the Galactic Civil War, so maybe they're looking at just simply divvying up the timeline a little bit more. Star Wars Shatterpoint has lots of different eras. They have things from the fall of the Jedi, the reign of the Empire, the age of rebellion, the New Republic, and potentially lots more. So there's definitely room for them to either kind of compartmentalize eras. I don't see them really doing that in Legion, or maybe just opening the door up for more eras and more factions. It's definitely a possibility, and I like the way that they've been future-proofing it. So to give a little more context to this particular frame that we're looking at here, there's a video that they released on their social media channels a couple of days ago, and it had lots of photos of the miniatures. Honestly, great photos, and other catch things: fight across the galaxy, battle through the eras, assemble and customize your own iconic forces. All of these things. So again, it wasn't just a eras specific thing, but it was just one line that was kind of in the middle of all of these, along with lots of different photos of the miniatures and battles and things like that. By the way, some Shatterpoint terrain in there. I noticed that, which is also a game that uses eras. All right, so of course their terrain can be used for multiple games. It's fine. Terrain is terrain is terrain. However, it does kind of bring up the fact that Shatterpoint uses eras. Legion's now mentioning eras casually and in promotional materials. And of course, that's clearly designed to talk about the fact that there are two different eras in this game, because this is also promotional material aimed at, reaching new players as well as existing players. And one of the things that new players will often ask is, wait a second, if there's Clone Wars stuff, but there's also Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, that's his new name, Eras. I've been saying Eras too much. But yeah, So can we mix and match? Can we take, Darth Vader and stormtroopers up against Anakin Skywalker and clones? And absolutely you can, right? And so that's one of the cool things about these games, is that you're writing your own story, and doesn't always have to doesn't have to make canonical sense perfectly, because otherwise, the good guys would always win, right? Well, almost always. But so that's cool stuff. Lots of great shots in here. Lots of all of the new stuff, and it really. I'm not trying to make a mountain out of a molehill, although I am going to talk for 10 minutes about it, because you're getting in reality what this was is this was just an opportunity to showcase lots of amazingly painted miniatures from all of the new stuff, and also kind of group it into a whole bunch of promotional stuff and advertisements for the new starters, some of which are coming out now, some of which are coming out in about a month or two. And keep the hype train going. And if there's anything I love, it's a hype train. So if we're going to dive deep, if we're going to peel the onion back and put on our conspiracy theory hats, which is always a fun thing to do. Let's put on the conspiracy theory hat right here, and let's talk about what some eras that they might do if they want to future-proof this. And if we look at other little kind of throwaway lines when they talked about the game's factions, they said the game's current factions. If we're going to see more factions, which they've already kind of hinted at is a possibility, I won't say hinted at, they left the door open in a very, in a not so subtle way, I think. Something like Battle Through the Eras might be another little subtle hint that new factions could be coming, and maybe they might be from a different era. So obviously this, there's a lot of different things that could come to mind. I don't know if this might mean Shadow Collective becoming their own faction. I don't know if this would mean Black Sun becoming their own faction, or the Hutts becoming their own faction. I don't know if something like that would happen, because that wouldn't necessarily hint at a specific era, although it could. I think what we might see is stuff from a different time period. Now, this could mean that the New Republic becomes its own faction, or maybe we'll see the Resistance as its own faction. I feel like the Resistance is so small that maybe you would do a New Republic faction and maybe make the Resistance a battle force within the New Republic, or something like that. That could be a possibility that would make a little bit more operational sense when you think about the size of standing armies and things like that. But the First Order easily makes sense. And they have more stuff that seems like it's worthy of Star Wars Legion. So I could easily see the First Order getting their own starter. And in the wave of being able to have single faction starter boxes in this kind of era of Star Wars Legion, you see what I did there, right? You could easily just add a single faction. You wouldn't have to do the Resistance if you wanted to just do the First Order. Or if you wanted to go back into a different time period altogether. There's also Old Republic stuff. There's lots of stuff from the Old Republic. We can go back. We could bring Revan. I mean, I feel like Revan's popularity has been just growing and growing and growing. And I feel like, with the direction that Lucasfilm has been licensing a lot of stuff from Legends recently, I feel like it wouldn't be that hard to get some stuff like that in this game. Some Darth Revan potential stuff. Maybe the old Mandalorian Wars. Maybe the old Sith forces. Maybe things like that. Maybe from KOTOR. Maybe stuff from Star Wars: The Old Republic, the MMO. Like a lot. There's a lot of different races in there. There's a lot of the Old Republic sort of had a standing military. You could do the Old Republic. You could do the old Sith Empire. Those things could work. I don't know how marketable they might seem to be, though. Might it be too risky to go in those directions? Might it be safer to go to First Order and New Republic or Resistance? That might be a little bit more feasible. There's another option, and that's the High Republic, which I think is maybe a better option than some other ones because of the fact that it's got a huge marketing push in a lot of other Star Wars media right now. Of course, it's all over the books. High Republic is this book series that takes place about 400 years before the Phantom Menace. Features pretty much all new characters with a handful of characters that we are familiar with already. Like Yoda, for example, considering he's 900 years at the time of Return of the Jedi, he's still alive in the High Republic. And there's like I think one or two other Jedi Masters that we've seen in the sequel. I'm sorry, in the prequel trilogy that happen to also be alive during the course of the High Republic stories. And so it's this whole conflict of a couple of key Jedi and a couple of key good guy characters going up against the Nihil, which is this bad guy. The main antagonists is this faction called the Nihil. And think of them as pirates. Think of them as raiders. Think of them as a very organized group of, kind of like a bad version of the rebellion, right? They have like these kind of, I'd say kind of pirate ship, kind of junky, terrorizing style of like ships, and they do terrorizing kind of things. They have masks, and they're very scary looking. They try to. I think of them as kind of like a Mad Max kind of type of faction, the type of bandits and Fury Road kind of warriors that you see in those movies. That's kind of the impression that I get from the Nihil. They've done things like they've dropped like toxic gas while they're all wearing masks, and so they've done things like that. Now you guys are all gonna suffer for it, and we're also destroying the environment while we do it. And we don't care. Scorched earth approach, very relentless and ruthless enemy, and they would really work in Star Wars Legion, and they could have a very distinct faction identity as well as being very chaotic, but led by like a brilliant strategist, and so like there's some really cool stuff going on with. There's a lot of named characters. There's a lot of sub-level leaders, a lot of like sub-faction specific leaders within the Nihil, and all of this. And they also, what's cool about them is they work on the ground and in space. So it whichever kind of game you want to do, they would work for. Considering this is Star Wars Legion, of course it would be a ground stuff, and they have plenty of ground battles that they participate in. And they have some really cool stuff. Now, there's also other stuff from the High Republic that could work. There's other antagonists. There's Drengir, which are like these meat-eating plant monsters and stuff like that. I don't really see them being a big thing, as maybe they could be like an objective or a hazardous condition or something like that. But I don't really see them kind of coming to Legion as much. But there's definitely some beasts that the Nihil employ that could be used against the High Republic and the Jedi and stuff like that. And the High Republic also could be a really cool way to get, since there's so many more Jedi at the time, you could maybe do a faction that's like, okay, well, this faction's special thing is they can run all Jedi. Like they can have core units that are like 2 Jedi, and then maybe they can add a third or something like that. Like they had a lot more Jedi back then. So maybe that would be part of their thing. I don't know. I'm speculating. I like to speculate. I'd love to hear what you guys think. What do you think would be some cool eras that they could explore? Do you think that they're going to go backwards in time? Do you think they're going to go forwards in time? Or do you think they're going to look at some of the timeline specific areas like post Return of the Jedi, New Republic kind of era, or like pre Episode 7 stuff? Like there's definitely a lot of things that could happen there. Do you think that they'll look into like maybe pre-Battle of Yavin, a little bit more of that kind of stuff? It's Saw Gerrera's thing, I'd love to see. There's a lot of that kind of stuff that I would love to see, and I think there's a whole lot of good stuff coming, especially with all of the hype that they're doing. There's a lot of promotional stuff coming out for Legion. So it's an exciting time for Legion players. And if you're a new player that's been trying to get into Legion, now hopefully you'll have your opportunity, as stores are now starting to carry some products that has been kind of out of stock for a long time. So cool to see it coming back in. Again, maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just a marketing slogan to reference the 2 eras that the game currently takes place in. But I feel like the door is wide open, or at least moderately open, for new eras, and I'd love to hear your take. Let me know what you think down in the comments section below. I will talk to you later. May the Force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes. So say we all. The spice must flow. You can't take the sky from me. And always wash your socks.